Hi there, I'm Coach Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And in this video, we're going to be talking to you about the power of setting boundaries with your ex.
Setting boundaries with your ex?
I don't want to set a boundary. That's terrifying.
Before we get into it, I did want to say that Craig and I are available for coaching sessions. So if you're interested, you can head to the website and book from there.
Absolutely. You know, when you think of boundaries, people get scared.
Oh, yeah.
Because especially anxious people, they don't want to set boundaries because they're afraid it will make the other person leave or abandon them, and that somebody might just give up and walk away.
Right. And we don't want to set boundaries unnecessarily either on the other end of the spectrum. We don't want to be just blocking people out whenever we can and not making connections with others or using it as an excuse to distance on purpose because it's more comfortable for us to not be close.
Yeah.
But
so what is a boundary?
A boundary, that is a personal limit that we set for ourselves in order to protect ourselves in any given situation. So a boundary is not telling somebody else what to do, changing their behavior, expecting things from them. It's more about ourselves, our connection to things, protecting ourselves, distancing and removing ourselves from situations that don't work for us when we're noticing patterns in certain people.
Okay.
So them not reaching out to you and being in no contact with you, that's not a boundary violation. You can't go off to your ex and say, you're disrespecting a boundary of mine by not talking to me.
Yeah, that's not a boundary.
Right? So I just want to make that very clear because sometimes we can have a distorted view of boundaries, and this is one of those therapy buzzwords nowadays.
Yeah.
You know, there was this big controversy with Jonah Hill sending this message to his girlfriend talking about boundaries, in which he listed a lot of expectations and demands from her, saying, you know, these are my boundaries, when in reality those were all demands. So just be very careful on how you approach this. Think about, you are creating a fence around yourself. You are saying, this is what I will and will not tolerate. Doesn't mean that another person has to change. Doesn't necessarily mean that another person is doing something wrong. Sometimes not. But it's being able to say, okay, am I going to be involved with this or not? And what can I do to protect myself?
Okay, so what are some examples of boundaries?
So an example of a boundary violation with exes that we see commonly is breadcrumbing. So if you find that your ex is messaging you over time, maybe it'll be a couple messages here or there, there's no follow-up, this is over a span of time. Now it depends.
Months.
Yes, months or longer.
Yeah.
It depends.
Keeps you hooked.
Yes, every situation is different. And this starts to interfere with your limits because they are reaching out to you. You know, they are initiating.
And it's painful for you because you feel like you don't know where this is going. You feel like your life is on hold. And in some ways, they're trying to keep you in hold.
Exactly.
And so that's why it's fair to say, I don't want you to do this because it's not fair to me. I don't know where this is going. You're not giving me any kind of clues here.
Right. Another one could be spreading misinformation or reaching out to third parties about you to try to gather information.
And this is a tough one because what do? You want to break no contact and tell them, you know?
Right. This is tough, but it also depends on how it's impacting you. You know, is it impacting other areas of your life? For some people, this kind of stuff can interfere with their work, can interfere with their, with their school, with their social relationships, with their reputation. So keep these things in mind. That is a tough one.
Yeah.
Because you can't force what people are going to say or not going to say.
Yeah. Unless you really got to protect yourself, I'd lean towards not in that one because it's probably going to get messy. And it's probably going to decrease the likelihood of coming back if you have to set that.
But you can, if third parties are reaching out to you trying to extract information, then that's more of a direct contact to where you could say, hey, listen, my limit is in the amount of information that I share with you that gets back with them. Okay. So that can be another example. It can be them showing up unannounced.
That's a big one.
This does happen. Sometimes exes will show up at your house, at your work, at places.
Sometimes you still have the key with each other and there's still stuff there. Right. So it's like, do you really want to set that boundary or do you want to let them come over and snoop? It might be up to you.
Right.
I might want them to come over and snoop and look around. Keep them investigating. It keeps them hooked. Keeps them wondering. Right. But it's up to you.
And it also depends on the impact that it has on your life and your mental health. So if you're realizing that it is impacting your mental health negatively, that you are starting to feel concerned about that, that's a completely different situation.
Yeah.
And also expecting you to continue to provide in certain ways, whether that is emotionally, financially, or otherwise after they've decided to end the relationship. So this could be expecting you to pay certain bills that, at this point, it's separated. But this is also a little bit complex because it depends on your agreements and how you negotiate as a team, whether you're together or not.
I just had a call a few weeks ago with a guy that was fairly wealthy, and the girlfriend really didn't work, and she didn't want to work. He tried to set her up with her own little business and stuff like that, didn't want to, but then she winds up breaking up with him, and he's like, well, I'll give you, I think he said like 2 or 3 months worth of bills. And I said, I thought that was fair. I thought that was fair and reasonable. He makes a lot of money. It's not really anything to him. You know, you want to help somebody that you care about. But she was like, well, that money's going to go so fast. I'm like, yeah, there's a difference between helping somebody and letting them exploit you.
Right. Leaving someone high and dry, and then, you know, setting some boundaries there, being able to help them and facilitate the breakup and the transition.
And so I thought it was, you know, he's going to have to find that balance for himself, but I don't want him to be exploited. I understand you want to help somebody and you know, set them in a position to be okay, that they're not, you know, going to lose their house or something.
Right.
Especially in his case. But, you know, we can't let this woman just completely take advantage of him. He's got to set a boundary there, too. Because she won't respect him if he does.
Right. And this also happens emotionally a lot more often as well. You know, you see that an ex is now divulging whatever issues they're having, maybe even with their new relationship with you, or whatever else is going on in their life, and expecting you to emotionally support in the same way that you did in the romantic relationship.
Yeah.
So being able to set a boundary to say, hey, listen, we're not, you know, in this type of relationship anymore. It is now affecting me negatively, and I need to create some distance in order for me to heal. So these are the types of boundaries that we're talking about. Of course, it's situation dependent. It also depends on your behavior as well. You know, if you've been telling them, I'm going to be there for you no matter what forever, you still have a right to set a boundary at any point and to change your mind and to voice those things.
Yeah.
But also be mindful. You know, you can't be upset with somebody for expecting something out of you when there were certain things that you promised, you know, even after the breakup. So being mindful there, because I know sometimes we say some crazy things when we're trying to keep the relationship intact. All right. So now there's certain keys to setting boundaries that we think would be helpful for you if you're in this type of a situation.
And this is hard, especially if you have an anxious attachment style and have never set boundaries or limits with people before. Scary.
Yes. You really have to think about how their behavior is affecting you personally. So really think about that. And like I had said, with the different arenas in your life, is it affecting your health? Is it affecting your stress levels, anxiety? Is it affecting your work, your ability to focus and concentrate? So think about those things. Also, will the situation be solved if you remove yourself? Sometimes setting a very clear, direct boundary is not necessary. Sometimes you're able to remove yourself from a situation and protect yourself in other ways and set boundaries even without using words. Of course, it's best to be clear and direct when you can, but situation dependent, you know, will the problem be solved if you distance? Next is, what are you willing to tolerate? Now, this is a really, really, really important question when it comes to boundaries. And we're not saying how much are you willing to tolerate, meaning you should be tolerating a lot and you should handle a lot because you love them. But what feels safe for you? What feels healthy for you? At what point can you maintain your sanity and be in this relationship?
Yeah, because you can't allow yourself to just be tormented and suffering over it. You know, so you have to figure that out for yourself and the balance within yourself on what feels safe for you. And, you know, expressing yourself is going to be difficult, but you have to practice that and set a limit so the situation isn't constantly hurting you.
Yeah.
You know?
And another thing that Margaret would always say, which I loved this, is what works for you. You know, in times where you can't force a partner to do something, you can let them know that the dynamic does not work for you. For example, I had a partner who he was very busy with work and other things I discovered later on. However, we would only see each other once every 3 weeks. And so I remember speaking with Margaret about this. I was venting to her my frustration of, you know, this is not the situation that I want. I want to be able to see this person more often. And she would say, okay, well then tell that person this doesn't work for me. And it was true. That situation did not work for me. And so, you know, with that, along with therapy and other things, being able to communicate, negotiate, the pace of our relationship at the time was able to accelerate. We were able to work things out. Ultimately not, but but being able to voice what your needs are and being able to plainly say, hey, this works for me, hey, this does not work for me, a way to communicate to your partner your needs. That's what's really important here.
Yep. We know it's scary to do, and you're afraid to set boundaries because you don't want them to disappear, you don't want them to run away. But honestly, respect is very important in a relationship. And if you don't set boundaries with people, they're going to think they can say and do whatever they want to you, and they won't respect you. And remember, love and respect go hand in hand.
Right. And it also depends on how safe you feel in expressing these boundaries. For some people who are very toxic, abusive, who are, have a short temper, you might feel hesitant to express your boundary out of fear that they might retaliate. So in those situations, you have to think about what is the safest option to protect myself here. Those can be very tricky situations, but keep them in mind. Boundaries might be necessary. Doesn't always have to be with words. Sometimes it can be with restraining orders. But think about ways to protect yourself in a safe way.
So get a lawyer.
Get a lawyer. End of story. But it does teach others how to treat you. That's really what we're trying to get at here, is you do teach others how you expect to be treated, how you want that relationship to go, and really what your standards are. So somebody entering a relationship with you, they realize, okay, these are some things that they won't tolerate, so if I want to be with them, these are some ways to make this relationship work or not.
A lot to think about. So hopefully this one's been helpful to you. And of course, if you want to get our help personally, you can do that on my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Skype. Coach Victoria is also available for Skype coaching.
I'm here whenever you're ready to chat.
Just click on her name at the top of the website to schedule with her. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And we will talk with you soon.